Welcome to TYT Sports. Jason Rubin here to discuss more fights in NFL training camp. This time, the Cowboys versus the Rams. Joint practice broke out in another fight. We have some video for you. Let's first take a look at that. And at the brunt end of another fight, I guess you could say, Dez Bryant just really has not had the best training camp practices. Obviously, he did sign his mega deal and will be a threat on the field, if not the biggest wide receiver threat on the field this season. Slow-mo is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So Cowboys haters rejoice as you watch Dez Bryant get clocked in the face. Oh, Dez, protect the face. Don't get your jaw moved across state lines like Geno did, like James Kirkland did, like everybody's been happening in these fights. So here's the interesting thing about these NFL fights, at least in the joint practices and the training camps. Now we're hearing from coaches. First, Sean Payton had a press conference in regards to to the fights in the NFL training camps. Let's quickly take a look at what he had to say.
For as much as we're harping about avoiding it, hell, the network puts it on 11 times. We know it's going to be about improving. Both teams are trying to get better. We're both trying to do the same thing at this period of training camp. And, that's unfortunate when you see it happen with other teams. And clearly when you put a team on television, like Hard Knocks, and then practice with someone else, we've seen that formula 2 years in a row. So we don't, that's nothing new.
So thank you, Sean Payton, for your kind words to the media about how we shouldn't be covering these fights or showing them 11 times on the network. One of the things you can do as a coach is simply tell your players not to fight at the joint practices. Again, I do want to state very clearly, I think it's totally fine that they can fight within their own training camp, within their own locker room. But when you have joint practices, tell your players to behave for the 3 hours that they're playing against each other. That's one way to stop fighting in joint practices altogether. But Sean Payton might not be the best person to do so. Someone who is a little bit better was Mike McCarthy in Pro Football Talk on NBC Sports. He came out and said, maybe we just shouldn't have joint practices. Now, I understand the mindset that these are football players and they're going head-to-head on the field in general. I think there's a major difference between when fights break out in training camp within your own team, within your own locker room. That, to me, is okay. That's simply the bonding part. You're being thrown together, one of which we had Thomas Jones on a couple months back, running back for the Jets and the Bears, and he explained how, for some of these guys, they don't even know everyone's names because they come into a team maybe that year, maybe as a new signing, as a free agent, and they're not expected to be best friends within a week or two, especially when training camp starts. So fights break out, egos are at large, and that continues the trend in the locker room. But when it comes to joint practices, there has been nothing but fights. And yes, some people say, oh, these fights have been going on for a long, long time, but social media has now shown that, we can actually see it. And when there's a video involved, the Ray Rice situation, for example, it changes the entire perspective of how we look at things. But more importantly, back to the point, Mike McCarthy's right. Technically, Sean Payton is right too. We like covering these. It's the internet. We see fights. We want to cover it. It's one of the most fun things to cover. But in general, cancel the joint practices. There's actually 0 point for them because that's what's the point of having preseason, at least in my opinion. 4 games, your team's ready at that point. Get rid of joint practices. We should be doing what Mike McCarthy says, Green Bay. So Mike McCarthy has also come out and said that he will not be taking part in joint practices. Granted, Green Bay is one of the weirder teams who, for their training camps, they don't leave Green Bay. You have to go to Green Bay if you want to do a joint practice. But again, as he said before, according to Pro Football Talk, that won't be happening. So leave your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about the fights in NFL training camps? Do you agree with Sean Payton? Do you think it's ironic that Sean Payton, of all people, had those words to say? And do you think joint practices should even exist in NFL training camps, period? Maybe we're simply just that excited for football to come back, or American football, as I should call it. Don't forget to subscribe. Follow myself on Twitter at JasonRubin91 and at TYT Sports. And we'll see you next time.